All right. Welcome. We are finally live, and we have a special guest today. Probably you were expecting Luc, Maarten, and some David, but thanks for joining Jeff as well. Can you say something, Jeff? Are you there?
It's a pleasure to be here.
Nice. Let me also share the presentation deck. Rip. Kind of struggling with my PowerPoint right now. Welcome. This session is about boosting your 11 search frenzy. Ask me anything. So I'm joined today with three special guests who all hold the 11 certs, some even more. And this is basically to ask questions about the certifications you want to do. First, I want to highlight the survey. I will put the link in the chat in a minute. I'm doing a little survey to see what everybody is looking for in this virtual community thing for Community Day, for meetups after the pandemic. So I'm curious what you guys think there as well. I want to welcome Luc, David, and Maarten to the show, and maybe you can all introduce yourself a little bit. And with a special question, I'm curious what your favorite service is of AWS. So let me start with Luc, the left top.
Yeah, thanks, Martijn. Well, my name is Luc van Dokkersgoed. I'm currently the head of AWS technology at Sentia, but you could also say I'm in between jobs because in 2 days I will be starting as lead engineer at PostNL, the Dutch postal services. I've been working with AWS for about 5 years now as a consultant, as an engineer, and seen a lot of different implementations, and have a love for serverless architectures, especially, but also a lot of love for VPC and EC2. So what my favorite service is, I think I should say DynamoDB. Very impressive. The more you get to know DynamoDB, the more impressive it is. So if you start with it, it's just like, well, it's a simple key value store. And then you start really implementing big applications on it. And then you really see the genius of it. And that impresses me every week again. So DynamoDB for me.
Cool. Thanks. How about you, Maarten?
Yeah, so my name is Maarten Bruntink. I'm the global AWS tech lead at NordCloud. An IBM company by now. So I worked there now for about 1.5 years. Before that, I was working at a Dutch consultancy firm at Oblivion, and working with AWS technology for about 5-6 years now. By now, if I look at my favorite service, that's a hard one. It's impossible to choose your favorite of all the babies, right? So I would say, I don't know. I think Lambda is one of the revolutionary services that really changed the game over the past years, and I guess it's the glue between everything on AWS. So I think it's a great service. Yeah,
I agree. Cool. Thanks. And I cannot see if David is here or or Jeff, but are you there, David? He probably is not. Oh, there you are. Yes.
Yes. Jeff was here. Are you kidding me, man?
What? No.
Yeah, this is Marcelina's. Sorry. Yeah. Sure. The best service on AWS, man. I don't know, but when I was a kid, I never thought I was going to be able to like deep fake myself or play with quantum computers. I mean, the other stuff is also really cool too, right? I mean, I kind of go to some company and show them in one day or a week, hey, your dream can be something real with like all of this cool tech and stuff. That's also just I mean, it's so out of this world. Sometimes I've heard people describe it like as Google is the dev and AWS is the ops, and I like to think of it in that way because like with AWS, you really can set up like everything really quickly. So all the services are my favorite. Probably my least favorite are like the new ones, right? Because they're a little bit edgy and you kind of in a bit of an explorer on them, which is always fun.
Yeah, still, that's great. I think one of the things, for example, lately I was playing with the new IVS service, the video streaming service. Basically, I didn't work with it before or any of the other like elemental services of AWS, but it's like 5 minutes and you have like your mini Twitch platform set up, right? So it's really cool. Yeah. And
wow, that's actually cool. Yeah, I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, that's definitely something for you. Then you can stream yourself on there.
Yeah, I mean that's that's exactly what I mean, right? I mean, so like it took me 1 or 2 days just to like string stuff together, and then I figured out AWS has this cool new nice DCV thing they released, and it's like workspaces with super low latency. And I've been playing with that, and so now I can like redirect my camera stuff, and I could never imagine as a kid I was doing this stuff, right? Because like you're sitting there with some cassette player, plugging it into a radio or something, and now it's like, no, I can control the fabric of the universe with a quantum computer from the cloud. It's really crazy to me.
Your sound is off, Luc.
Yeah, sorry. I think having all those services available to you is really cool, but also the fact that they made complex technology that has been around for maybe decades so much more accessible and so much easier. For example, if I spin up a new website now, I only use S3 and CloudFront, right? And then some Lambda for backend processes, and of course API Gateway, AppSync, and I don't have to think about anything about scaling, about hosting, about maybe even cost, because well, if I spin up a new project, I'm not going to have any users anyway, so it's not like it's going to cost me anything. And just having everything available to you within minutes that cost you years to deploy and set up in the past, that's just awesome.
Cool. Yeah, indeed. Let me go back to the topic. I'm struggling with PowerPoint today. I don't use PowerPoint for many years. I always use the Reveal.js, etc. And now I'm struggling with the studio, etc.
So that's a good thing with time.
This works.
Yeah.
I put a little bit of an agenda for today. Certainly it's about certifications. So first, a quick introduction of what actually is the AWS certifications and what options do we have. We can dive into some generic questions, maybe some tips and tricks by the guys here, and maybe questions from the audience. You can use the chat on Twitch and on YouTube to ask any questions. It would be great if it's regarding to the exams or learning AWS or maybe tough questions you face. And then I'd like to do step by step, looking for foundation certification. So people that just started with AWS, then move to associate certs, then professional, and finally specialty. We have about 50 minutes to 1 hour left for this session. So let's dive into it. Cool. Yeah, there it is. In Dutch, we sometimes say hang het boven je bed als je iets haalt. put it above your bed. So these are all the certifications that we are talking about today. So most of us will start with Practitioner nowadays, then choose one of the associate levels, like do you have a sysops background, or maybe a more generic solution architect, or focusing on the developer services. And then you can dive into professional, and if you want one of these specialty certs. I think the Practitioner was launched later, so it used to be the core 5, like the SysOps, Solution Architect, Associate Developer, Solution Architect Professional, and DevOps Engineer. That are, I sometimes call the core 5. A few years ago, I got this cool T-shirt with 5 faces on it.
Is it with the ninja logo?
Yeah, the one with the ninja
cool,
logo.
yeah.
They used to give these T-shirts with 5 icons on it, but I'm not sure if they now have with 11.
I think you can collect a pin at reInvent.
Oh yeah, pins. Yeah, now it's pins.
Oh man,
Anyways.
I hope I can. I love getting stuff.
Have you guys booked already? reInvent?
Oh yeah, it's happening.
Happening. Maarten?
Yeah, it will happen. It
Will happen. Luke?
I have to talk to my new employer first. I haven't started yet. So,
you have an approval from home?
I think I can convince them.
Okay, nice.
That was actually my last one too, hey Luke, so don't feel bad. I was like, no, my wife said I can, so.
Well, you'll be home before Santa Claus, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's right.
And there are direct flights nowadays, so you can...
yeah, but only on Sunday, right?
Yeah, Sunday, Thursday. I'm flying on Sunday and moving back on Thursday. So I'll arrive on Friday again.
All right.
Anyways, back to the certifications. The first question for you guys. Are there any tips or tricks when preparing or while booking the exam, maybe for the exam day itself or tackling the questions? So let me first start with Luke. Do you have any recommendations while preparing your certification?
Definitely. The one big advice I give everyone who's preparing for an exam is build stuff. You can't learn this stuff from paper. Well, you can, but it will cost you so much more time and you will not actually understand the service. And if then the question is just a bit different than what you read, then you won't understand it. For example, built a Route 53 setup with a health check, and then kill the EC2 instance and see that it fills over to an S3 bucket. Maybe you will never use it in practice, but you have to build it once to really understand the concept. And that goes all the way to the more advanced topics, like the database specialty or the machine learning specialty. It really works to actually build or deploy a Neptune cluster, or do the QLDB thing, deploy it once to get feeling for it. And especially with the machine learning one, you have to start training models. You have to deploy models. You have to actually see it work before you sit the more advanced exams. So that's on preparation.
Before we go ahead, maybe the others can chime in if they have tips for the preparing stuff. So hands-on experience is basically what Luke said.
Yeah, definitely. I can relate to that as well. But also, if you're just starting and you don't have like a job in cloud computing or an AWS related job, then definitely this is the way to get at least some basic experience around it, and at least know to talk about it. Let's say in an interview, just a little bit more than what the question is asking, right? So it's your basic foundation to get started. And I also like to see it like it's also a bit like a driver's license, right? When you get the car, you can drive, but still the actual let's say finesse in learning how to drive you will do afterwards. So it's a bit of a combination of both. You need some basic understanding, and depending on the certification, of course, but it's a starter to do the labs and the training, etc. Yeah.
Cool.
I'll chime in there too, and that's I tried that as well, like to always build the stuff that's like that I was like studying and things, But like at some point I started getting overloaded with it, and I started like freaking out because I was like, you're trying to set up a basic thing, and then you get stuck into figuring out why like user data isn't working on a EC2 instance or something silly. And so like actually a lot of the things that I find, and like Martin says, it's great to like chat about it. Then you can like take those experiences, walk straight into a company. It's the same thing as doing it for someone else, right? But I found actually the best thing for me in preparation was like setting a goal. Like 3.5 years ago, I actually decided to get all the certs, and then I kind of just motivated myself by like kind of gamifying it a little bit, kind of like achievements in my own mind, and the badges are nice to help with that, but kind of going through that process and then the momentum of it, it kind of, I wasn't too obsessed with like learning it all up front and knowing the documentation backwards, because I thought I'd probably get there over time. Maybe the next 5 years I'll know the SageMaker documentation backwards. Although if you did know that, you'd pass the machine learning speciality. That's basically what I did. I was like, okay, cool. What is in the SageMaker stuff? Backwards, done. Okay, cool. Database speciality, RDS, MS SQL. You kind of got to know those important parts, and then you should be good.
Yeah, booking the exam definitely helps indeed. I agree with that, David. So just select a date that's in a reasonable amount of time ahead of you, and just book the exam before that, so you have some pressure. You can always, let's say, I think up to 24 hours beforehand reschedule. So if you really can't make it, you can still do it. But actually booking it definitely helps to let's say, push it forward. Yeah.
And then I would say start out as being as honest as Luke by building everything that you need to know. And then when it gets too much, just be like, okay, well, it's too much, and just go forward anyway.
Yeah, I do think that a bit of experience helps as well. So just start with the easy ones, the practitioner, and then the associate. I should say easy, the lower level ones.
Straightforward.
The straightforward ones. Well, start with the associates and the practitioner, and then at some point you also start to recognize certain patterns, and we'll get to that later in this talk as well. But then when you get to the more advanced, the specialty topics, then you start reading, well, let's say the question behind the question as well. Like, okay, what do they intend? What do they want to hear with this question? And that makes it easier as well, I think.
Cool. So while you were speaking, what is the way you did the exams? Is it at home or office or an exam center?
I did the first ones I did in the exam centers. I think there was a few years back we didn't have much different options.
There was no option for doing it at home. That's correct.
Exactly.
No, it was PSI. Yeah.
And I think 2 years ago I did my first one at home before COVID, and then during COVID I did another 3 at home. One of them I actually did with screaming kids in the background, where I rushed through the exam like, okay, I have to go get to my kid, and did it in like half the time or something.
How did you find the online experience for the exam, Luke?
I think it's fine. There are a few weird things. One is, of course, you're in your own room, and you have the sound from your home, right? So your kids and so on. Mm-hmm. But what was really weird is the fact that you're using the camera. First, before you do the exam, you have to show your entire room, every angle of it. And I'm in my bedroom, so that means, well, getting rid of all the clothes that are still there, because, well, you have to show it on camera, right? And then they start asking questions. So they say, okay, we're looking at your photos that you sent, and we saw that there's a monitor in the back of your room. I said, yeah, I put it there because I can't have it on my desk. Okay, but can you show me on camera that the cables are not connected? Okay, that's pretty intrusive, but sure. And then you're doing the exam. And one thing I do during the exam is I'm always sitting with my hand in front of my mouth and I'm touching, and I'm always doing that. And then at some point there's this chat box and it says, can you please remove your hand in front of your face? I'm like, whoa, you're actually looking at me. And then I was really conscious about it and constantly sitting like this just to force myself having my hands there. And that's a really weird experience, actually. You feel so watched, and that it didn't help my concentration, I must say.
No, I agree. I think I had similar experience, especially with the kids shouting in the background, or I don't know, the cat that's meowing on the background that wants to get out, or something like that. Yeah, you want to go and stand up, but you can't, because if you go out of the camera view, then you probably get disqualified. So yeah.
Talking about cats, I actually had a cat walk in the room because I didn't close the door well enough, and then the cat was walking around. And I wanted to get the cat out, but I couldn't. So I actually opened the chat box, said, hey, there's a cat here. Can I remove it? And they said, well, you can, but you have to stay inside of the camera. So I picked up my laptop, and while moving the laptop, shooing the cat out in the middle of my exam. Well, I still made it, but barely, I guess.
Yeah, but I guess if you're really stressed about doing exams, then I would definitely recommend to go to the exam center, because you have all the peace and quiet that you need. So yeah.
And you're allowed to go to the bathroom in an exam center, which you aren't when you're doing it from home. So if you have to sit in an exam of 3 hours, then certainly at some point you have to go. But for me, the connection to the camera was lost during the exam. So this chat popped up, and I was able to restart my computer and rejoin the session, etc. And I passed it eventually. But at that moment, that felt like it was 15 minutes. Well, it probably was just 30 seconds, but well, we managed it.
Definitely puts that extra stress. Sorry, Nick. You're like, oh my God.
I had to reboot my laptop at some point as well because there were technical difficulties. But then again, that's also a good thing. The fact that they are allowed to do that and that they can support that, it's actually pretty redundant.
Yeah. I mean, I had the one guy call me from the call center to like make sure like I was still on the phone and stuff, and he kind of helped me through it. I think I had a weird situation where I was like, it wasn't a VPN thing because they always warn that, but it was something else, and it was like they weren't getting the audio or something, and they were like, no, we also need the audio. And yeah, but he called me and we like set it up and stuff. I found the best time to write the exams, because I also have a family, was like 2-3 in the morning. I'd book those super early morning ones, write the exam, sit for 3 hours, and then just be buzzing afterwards, like super hard.
And then I have to work with David together the whole day.
Yeah, and I guess we are all techie, so there's like this system check that you can run before if when you schedule the exam. But I never did that, so then the exam started. I had to install all this software and those kind of things. So if you're then stressed, then that doesn't work as well.
Like it's a new version of Pearson VUE. No.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe there's also another tip, as a lot of people watching today will probably be a Dutch guy, and you can get another 30 minutes, I guess, for each exam. But you have to set it before you book your exam. So that's a little tip you can get on that.
I see there's a question in the comments how the verification happens. So to clarify that, you have to you register on the website, and then they send an URL, a link to your phone, and you have to follow that. It opens a new website, and that tells you to take a number of pictures. So you have to take a picture of your own face, of your ID, front and back, and then your desk in 4 directions, so front, back, left, right, and they upload that, then they verify it, and then you can start the exam.
Yeah, I think they actually require you to be in a room that has it's not a very open room, right? So it has to be, they have to be able to see the door and the windows and those kind of things. Yeah.
Cool. And for the day itself, any tips? Of course, get a good night of sleep if possible, but any other things? Last minute readings, summaries. Do you use that?
I don't do it, but it doesn't work for me because if I get read some notes in the last minute, I always get confused during the exam. Was it now like this or was it like that? So, but that's personally for me. It could work if you feel more confident if you read through your notes, maybe do some last minute practice exams. But I wouldn't be too stressed about it. If your preparation is good, you will make it anyhow.
I agree with one exception, and that's for the machine learning specialty, because there's so much actual theory in there that you have to know. And one of them is about the recall, accuracy, precision, and something else. There's this 2x2 graph, and I had some difficulty remembering the details, so I studied that like the 5 minutes before my exam. Then I started the exam. First thing I did was open the notepad, draw the diagram. So I just had that. That's the only exception to what you're saying. For me.
That's a really good tip, actually. That's a really good tip. Man, cool. I don't even know what to say to it. I wish I had thought of that. But one of the things I've noticed is actually I like to, so, sometimes you don't know stuff. So there's probably quite a bit that you don't realize you don't know. I'd like to just take one or two of those things, and on that last day, just try slowly build one of those or look at it a little bit more and just even get one bit of understanding on something I truly didn't know, like as opposed to revising all of my notes and stuff like that. And then also just before the exam, I hit a Red Bull every single time. It's worked every time. It just gets me really focused.
Well, there's the toilet issue there as well, right? If you're sitting for 3 hours.
I think this is actually one of the hardest ones. So like you guys brought up that thing about, if you non-English speaker, you get 30 extra minutes. So that one of the hardest certs I've found was the Solution Architect Professional, just because of the length and the reading in the questions. Like you have to be so quick, and I've been thinking a little bit about it. It's almost like if you read that question and then you don't understand it and you go, okay, you know what? I don't understand this question. I'm going to save it for later. And then you go on to the next one. When you reread it later, you have to almost reload that whole context of this whole heavy question into your mind. And it actually can take quite a bit of time. So that kind of stuff in the actual day, I actually try to really just answer the question first off one time, spend the compute on it, my brain compute, and spend the compute on it and then move on. So I try not to actually come back to those ones. But if there are ones that I do come back to, it's like I truly am stumped. I have no idea. I've never even heard of this thing. And then, so like when it comes to that question, what I try to do is read the first bit and then normally like the last part of the question, like the dot, how do you think this could work because it will save the most cost or whatever type thing. I really like read that part and then think about the question again, because that's generally what they're asking.
Yeah, I think it definitely works, especially when in the pro certifications, to read that last sentence first. So are you looking for a most cost-effective solution, or are you looking for the most, let's say, operational, with the least amount of operational effort, or those kind of things? And then when you read through the question what you need to look for.
Yeah, or even if you have the multiple answer questions, right? From the options below, choose the 3 that are whatever. Just having that context and then reading the question helps a lot. And also regarding the time, because indeed in the Solutions Architect Professional one, you have, I think, 2.5 minutes or something for every question on average.
Yeah.
So you have to watch your time, right? So you have to make that calculation. You don't know exactly how many questions you're going to get, but you do know how many minutes you're going to have. So the first thing you do is, okay, I have this many minutes, this many questions. How many minutes do I have per question? But it doesn't work to look at that timer for every question. because there are the difficult questions and the easy questions. And the easy questions can take you maybe 30 seconds. The difficult questions can take you like 8 minutes. There are some really extreme ones in there. So what I do is look at the timer every 10 questions, and just make sure I'm still kind of on track.
Yeah, exactly. So on average, you're still proceeding as planned. Yeah. So has any of you done the new SysOps exam? Because I heard that there's now like some live exercises in there where you actually need to do some stuff.
Do you still do the associates? Because if you extend your professional, the associates are also extended, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I've got the DevOps Pro coming up. So yeah, like I guess I'd probably miss the SysOps, but the thing that's scary about it is actually that solution architect, the one I wrote like 3-4 months ago. It was the new exam, and it was so different to the first one that I wrote. I was like, oh my gosh, like. I think we were speaking about it earlier, just with the amount of services that AWS has and stuff. It's like, I really felt it in that exam. The whole test kind of changed more to migration and cloud adoption framework. And it wasn't as like developy as I remember the first one being and stuff, but it caught me off. So I guess the SysOps one, I rate if it's a new SysOps exam, it's probably going to be pretty hard, because the SysOps one, in my opinion, was the hardest of the associates, just generally for people and stuff like that. I find it generally pretty easy because I have like a bit of skill, but the SysOps was notably harder for me, but I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree that the SysOps one was the most difficult because, well, my experience is also as an architect. So you design systems. But the SysOps, according to all best practices, right? So you do infrastructure as code, you do rolling deployments, you do multiple environments, and so on. But the SysOps is way more practical. It's like you have an EC2 instance and you clicked it together in the console. And now you want to reboot it and you want to retain all the data on your instance store. Whatever, I don't ever do that, right? So that's what made it really hard for me.
Yeah, agree.
The questions also felt harder. I won't lie. I just wanted to say that quick. I don't know. It's like it felt like it was almost closer to that DevOps Pro. I don't know.
Exactly. Also about like the ops work related services, for example, that are the services that I would never use in my day-to-day work. So yeah. Especially those services which are like, okay, yeah, I have some experience with Puppet from the past, so I can imagine how it will work, but only from like past experience. Any service that I actually implemented in real life.
Yeah, can anybody please tell me why Elastic Beanstalk is still in the professional exams? Because who uses that?
Yeah.
But it's a pretty cool service, right? I mean, like I think like that whole Docker thing, I think it didn't get adoption right because a lot of enterprises were like, oh, it's like some weirdy managed thing and who's really controlling it? We want our own control over it. But if they did and they were just like going with the Docker on it, and I think it would have probably been a favorable strategy, but yeah, just never really got that adoption. So now it's like kind of this weird thing that no one speaks about because you got ECS and all of this other cool stuff, and even more powerful now, like Lambda can support Docker, and we almost have Heroku on AWS with App Runner and stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Cool. So let's dive into some example questions then. I set up what is called a live directpoll.com. It's a free service. Hopefully it works. It works on HTTP, so not encrypt everything. But these questions are not that secret. If you scan the image, and please also Luc, Maarten, and David use your phone and.
Be right back.
I see some answers coming in.
Yeah.
Do The URL is still on the top, so if you need to type it. And still, if the viewers have any questions, post them, please, so we can discuss them, answer them. Also regarding the questions, because certainly this is a difficult question. We have 3 different answers. Find your phone, David.
Was any of you actually using it at this in this year already?
What, the service?
Yeah. Or AWS, yeah, in general. I don't think AWS in general, but
well, if the question is am I using the answer to this question? It depends on if I got it right.
in 2004 already, I don't think.
Oh, then no, I think I started using AWS 2015 or so.
Yeah. For me as well.
Yeah,
also, it wasn't really that accessible then, right? Everybody can just spin up an AWS account now, but back then you had to have some knowledge or some connections to actually get started, I think.
But did you all agree with the SQS or?
Yeah, I put in SQS. Yeah.
Okay. There's often a discussion on these, which was the first, because SQS was launched in 2004, but not general available. And once it got general available in 2006, it was launched together with S3. So sometimes people say, well, S3 was the first real service, and kind of a cool discussion. Let me see. Because now we run into the practitioner level questions, like this one. Which AWS service would simplify the migration of a database to AWS?
This is like P1 meaning priority 1 incident.
Yeah, that's just for me a reminder that we are still in practitioner, and once it turns into an A, then we are into associate level, then a P again for professional, and then an S is for specialty. And I took a couple of questions that were representing the specialty level. I think most of us answered now. 9.
I think we can actually have a discussion on this question.
Okay. Go ahead.
Because of course the obvious answer is database migration service. It does simplify migrations of a database to AWS, but I think storage gateway is actually also used in migration implementations, where you first want to synchronize the entire disk to S3, for example, and then go from there to RDS. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that there is some migration, database migration pattern that includes storage gateway. I'm sure that there's a pattern that includes Snowball. Maybe I'm getting something confused there. But I do think that you can use storage gateway in your database migrations as well.
I don't know, to be honest. It would then maybe dumping some like raw database backups on there and then syncing it, but it doesn't sound really, let's say, without heavy lifting.
No, that's true.
You can do the big part. So one-time copy using storage gateway or Snowball, and then use the database migration service to just reflect the changes over time, and then have a seamless go live. But that's certainly not a practitioner level question.
Right, we're a practitioner.
Yeah.
So I think I actually got a storage gateway. I don't think it's in one of the designs, but Snowball definitely is. And that's also, well, for the people who are sitting the exams, Snowball actually comes up in quite a few exams. Because whenever you have a large amount of data that needs to be transitioned to the cloud, and you have a reduced amount of bandwidth, like a 50 Mbit or 100 Mbit or maybe even a gigabit line, then they say you have to make the calculation what is faster, sending the actual disk with Snowball to AWS, or saturating that line and taking like a month or so. And I always like that question, because then you have to make the calculation, okay, how fast is that line and how fast is the truck that is going to bring the Snowball to me and back to AWS?
You're actually ordering a truck. I was thinking of ordering a couple of those, Snowball Edges, these boxes, right? To a in-person meetup. So once we can get together again, maybe after the summer, I think it's nice to order this thing, maybe a couple of those, and play around with it, so that you have actually the hands-on experience with your Snowball.
Maybe you can order the snowmobile full of pizzas and beer.
Yeah. Or what about
idea.
What about those snow cones?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They're like USB sticks, right?
I thought that the rule of thumb is more like if you can send it over in a week, because the ordering process and sending it back and forth would actually take about a week. So if you can do it faster than that, then you should not use the Snowball devices. Unless,
I think Lucas has said it well there. It's like saturating the network, right? If it's like petabytes of data, you don't want to be destroying your company's hybrid solution by only doing a migration. That's generally what the questions are getting at. So that's.
No.
I will immediately put a new question on it. I'm not sure if you saw it. Which AWS networking service enables a company to create a virtual network within AWS? Still practitioner level?
I think. Can I just say it? No.
If I click next, then.
But if I say it and get it wrong, then I look like a noob. That's okay.
We will run into the difficult questions in a minute.
Maybe you skipped the cloud practitioner one.
Yeah, that was actually one of the questions I forgot to ask. I was wondering if you got a 1,000 score on your practitioner exam.
I did.
You did? No. Maarten, you did?
Good question. I don't know. I'm going to check right now.
That's what was so weird with me. Like for the cloud practitioner, I got I think it was like a 830 or something. I was like, oh, that sucked. But like a couple of the specialities, I got like 970s, and I was like, oh man, like what happened with this practitioner? Clearly, I don't understand, because it asks like that support stuff, right? Like business, like executive stuff, and I just was like, I always normally Google it.
I think I did the practitioner at the point that there were 7 or 8 certifications, and I had just to get one more certification and the practitioner. So then I thought, well, why not just do it on the same day? While I'm at the test center anyhow. So I did them right after each other. So first I don't know, I think it was some specialty, and afterwards I did the cloud practitioner one just without studying, because of course if you have the associate, then it should.
I still remember which question I got wrong, because it was like on red granularity EC2 was built, and I come from a time when it was per hour, and I know that they changed it over time and a couple of years ago, but I didn't remember if it was by minute or by second. So I probably had that one wrong. I said by minute, and it was actually by second, except for the first minute, something like that. Yeah.
I had 982.
Oh.
Nice.
So I missed probably one.
I also see that we have a question by Michael. I think I pronounced it correctly. What is the real benefit of getting an AWS cert? Who likes to answer that one?
Well, for me, it's about like personal challenge, but also if you want to proceed in your career and it shows some kind of level of understanding if you apply to another role. I would always look at certification. You don't need to have 12 certification. That doesn't make sense like we do. But I think if you have at least the associate ones, and depending on the level of role that you're going for, it kind of shows some dedication that you need to go through an exam and are able to study for it and those kind of things. It's not per se about the certification, I think, because knowledge-wise, you can find out in an interview if somebody is knowledgeable or not. But it's more about dedication, I guess.
Yeah, what I would like to add there is it also forces you to broaden your AWS horizon a bit, especially with the professional ones. You have to know services that you might not use otherwise. And just by learning that and by training for it, well, you get to know what they do, and then you can apply that in your daily work again.
That is true. That's why I actually got some of the specialties, because they are in areas that I wouldn't touch normally, and have indeed some goal to go for it. Yeah.
I would also say to Mikhail is that in 3.5 years, I have changed my life by several orders of magnitude. So that's what AWS certs have kind of done for me a little bit. I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's AWS or some other provider, right? But I find with AWS, it's just, it's something that's fun. It's like the community is quite fun as well. It's like, it's quite easy to be passionate about it and stuff. And, the benefits is that, like, for your career, it's huge. I mean, I think cloud is a small percentage still of, it's like a drop in the ocean, right? Still of the on-prem databases and stuff like that. So it's only going to get bigger. So I feel quite comfortable in like the next, maybe, who knows, technology changes as well, but I feel like quite comfortable in the next like 5 to 6 years that there's going to still be this massive cloud revolution. So being prepared for it now is great. And in a short time, it can actually change quite a lot.
Yeah, and also if you're actually looking for a career in AWS in public cloud, then having one certification already sets you apart from thousands of others, right? Having the big five, way more so, and then having all of them. Well, I guess that's you have to be a bit weird to want to have all of them.
Probably work for a partner, because I generally see IT partners that have that challenge, which consultant have the most, or maybe as a whole group, try to get the 100 certification level or maybe 200 certification level in your company. Yeah. It's like a little bit of competition, a friendly competition, I would say.
Yeah. Martin, Martin, you actually hit it on the nail, because that's actually where it started for me. Back in South Africa, the company that I was working with there, they started a competition about it with each other. So we very much were like, oh, he's going to get that cert, and we were like trying to compete. And I think it just stuck in my mind, and it's always just followed me now, And I was competing versus these guys who are academic, right? They're so smart and so clever. I could never figure out the discrete mathematics they're applying to their cryptography stuff, and they're doing some crazy stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, how am I going to compete versus this guy who's got his masters in maths, right? And they would actually crush the certs as well. I saw their ability to just pick up the knowledge, and they were obviously using it and really good, and just running so quickly with it. But something crazy, for some reason, I was able to get them all right still, So I don't think it's also maybe necessarily a thing of intellectually I'm smarter than someone. I don't think there's any of that. I actually think it's more just a kind of a grit and determination and a constant learning thing. It's let's learn this together over time type deal. That's a better way to do it. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree with the gamification part. I think AWS did that pretty well by just having the badges and so on, and then you get to, do you have 12 out of 12? You sort of set a goal, And personally, I'm pretty sensitive to that. If I have 10, then I want to have 12.
Then you will have to go for the SME badges, Luke.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah.
Gotta collect them all.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the meantime, I skipped quickly a question. There were 6 participants that answered correctly, CloudTrail. So apparently we have a quite sophisticated set of viewers. So maybe dive a little bit deeper into the associate level questions. The company's security team requires that all data stored in the cloud be encrypted at rest at all times using encryption keys stored on premises. Select 2.
This is the point where you have to start really reading the question and the answers. You can't just go.
And I had to squeeze the actual question a little bit because probably you're familiar with this question already. It's like 7 lines of question, and then each question has a lot of words in the answer. But the direct poll is a little bit limited, and also due to the timing today. I think we are almost there. Let's wait for the last 1-2 participants.
If you know this answer, you can go for the security specialty exam.
As well.
It's
40 questions of this.
Well, I think it's 30 questions KMS and 30 questions on IAM policy. So if you know that, then
well, there's maybe 1 or 2 about CloudTrail and AWS Detective.
True.
Actually, weirdly enough, that security speciality for me was the easiest exam. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think if you because in the beginning, I think IAM is like the most complicated thing that you ever saw when you just started with AWS. But once you have the grasp of it, then doing the security specialty becomes really easy, I guess. And then, KMS of course is still complicated, but questions like these where you need to know, okay, when do I need to use this key and when do I need to use that key? How do the key policies work? Those kind of things. If you know that, then you're good.
The worst part is like no matter how many certs you have, you'll go to that company, you'll do that AWS S3 copy, and it's like access denied. You check your IAM role, you're like, but I got all the S3 permissions.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's KMS.
Have you seen the questions already? Because that's one of the next questions.
But regarding the specialties, right? You have the database specialty and the security specialty. I think if you have the solutions architect professional, those 2 are actually pretty easy to get because there's like 80% overlap. And then there's, for the database specialty, there's this question like, which of the RDS services has a fault injection? Well, that's not in the solutions architect professional. That's a really database specific one. But even if you would not get that one, and generally you can guess it because the answer is Aurora. And if something is cool, then it's generally Aurora. The answer is Aurora. And if you don't know the other, and other questions, if you don't know the answer, the answer is probably something involving S3 because they always want you to use S3. But with those specialties they have a lot of overlap with the SA Pro.
I love that piece of advice. Like if it sounds too good to be true with the database stuff, it's generally Aurora. That's a good one. You can actually live by that rule because I've had that so many times. Like, what near zero RTO or a near zero RTO, right? It's like, oh, definitely Aurora, global tables or something. Good.
What do you think of this question?
This is the kind of question where I don't know the answer, but I can choose the things that sound most logical, because archiving and migration isn't really a thing in S3. There's only the other one. So I did it by elimination.
Cool.
Do you know?
And actually, that's
That-
maybe a good thing to mention for our audience as well. Elimination is super important during the exams, because if you have four answers and there's a lot of text in the answers, it's going to cost you a lot of time to actually understand all of those answers. But there are always at least one and sometimes two answers that are just not it. So, for example, there's something that says it's the estuary iceberg class instead of glacier. Well, you have to know that iceberg isn't the thing, and I guess that's difficult in itself because of all the weird names that Amazon uses. But
By the
generally,
time
you can
you are
just strike it
thinking of
off.
it's already
Well,
there.
actually, I was in a few of these item development workshops with the SME program, and doing that is actually not allowed. So, like coming up with services that don't exist, that's not allowed to put in like a distractor answer. So that's quite a kind of a good thing, I guess, because otherwise it would be like, do you know the name of the game? Then it's yeah.
But these questions as well, I always forget, like RCU and WCU. I always forget the numbers. I also forget like the exact number that, like, I think I know it's like that a DynamoDB table can store. I think it's what, 200 KB. I always forget though, but like it's just one of those things I'll Google. But for the exam, they want to know, right? They want to know like, hey, how many RCUs are you putting on this table?
And
Yeah,
do you know which exam? Because I think I know which exam of the associates this question will appear.
It's the developer one.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
So, but this one is confusing. This is the kind of stuff that you really need to study, because you can't guess it, right? You have to know the amount of kilobytes in a normal read and a consistent read and in a write, and it's just what they call in Dutch stampen. Yeah, you have to you have to repeat until you know it.
Exactly.
Or just use DynamoDB serverless.
On-demand scaling. Yeah.
Last question in the associate series. Which of the following storage services store data across multiple availability zones for high availability?
Oh, the answers.
So, Maarten, you said, well, a non-existing service is not allowed in the answers. I didn't know that, but that's good to know. But still, there is always, or generally, there is an answer that you can just strike off. So it's not going to be a wrong service name, but it's going to say something like, I don't know, the 100 gigabit direct connection or something that doesn't exist. Still, you have to know that it doesn't exist, but it allows you to strike it off pretty quickly.
Yeah, or it's about features, right? So if you have this S3 object dropping in a S3 bucket, what service can trigger a Lambda function, right?
Yeah. So generally, you're not supposed to let's say remember things like service limits and those kind of things. So if you see any of those would be things that everybody would typically look up, right? And they will not test you on it. So if you see anything about a service limit, unless like a specific number, then I guess it's wrong. It can be that it's like, okay, you hit a service limit. That can be a possible answer to a question, but not like the service limit can only be 5 or something.
But I would say, hold on that one, I'm thinking about that, because they will ask questions like, how many is the maximum amount of SADAs you could put on a VPC? You know, they would do something like that. I remember a question about something like that. I can't remember if it was in the networking specialty, which was the worst exam for me, so hard. But I remember there was a question about that. Or maybe they didn't ask the number, but they implied like, okay, yeah, you had to figure out that you could have 300,000 RPs or something in this thing. So you had to know that you could put 5 like SADAs of /16 on this VPC.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
that was it. Yeah. dang, you're right. Again.
But actually, if you look into the program in a bit more detail, it's quite fun to join that. If you have some certifications, you can join it. I think if you have the certification, then you can, on the AWS training website, follow some course where they explain how the exams are developed. And then you can just sign up for that and name your experience. And then they will contact you from the AWS certification and training team to join one of these workshops. And I've been in a few. I think one was like the job task analysis workshop. That's something that's done really at the beginning of the development process, because this takes about, from what I heard, 12 months to 15 months to develop an exam. So, and in this is where you really define like the blueprint of the exam. So what you would normally read on the website. So what does this person need to know? They call it like the minimum qualified candidate. So if you just barely have enough knowledge to do this exam, what should you know? And then you would discuss that with other people from AWS and other people from the industry. So it's actually really fun to get to know people and also hear some new things behind the scenes from AWS and those kind of things. So it's definitely recommended if you like those kind of things. And of course you can get some swag. So that's always good as well.
Have you seen a question you worked on an exam?
No.
That would be great, right? If you were doing an exam and you see your own question.
Yeah, but you have to be certified before you can join for a specific item writing.
But 3 years later you have to do it again, right?
Yeah. So it could be that if I do it.
I actually I did the Solutions Architect Professional recertify a few months back, and I had a question about the CDK, and I'm a big fan of the CDK, so I put something about that on Twitter. And some other APN ambassador, well, you all know of the APN ambassador, said, "Hey, that question is really familiar to me," because he actually wrote that question.
Wow.
And also, you do like what we are doing now, like in item development workshops. You actually come up with questions like this, and then with the group, you do a group review on the question and actually have a discussion like, is this actually the best practice to do this, or is this actually a good way? And you need to provide like proof from the AWS documentation that this is actually the recommended way and those kind of things. So it also really helps to, let's say, get some more knowledge about the subject, because you really have to dive into the docs.
Right. Time for our next question. We are going to the professional level right now, but I think this can also appear on the associate. What do you need to host a secure public website and API gateway API? Choose all that apply. So there are a couple of components required.
So I guess you need the API gateway if you want an API gateway, right?
By the way, I think we should clarify, on the exam, you will never get a question that states, choose all that apply. It will always say the amount of answers that you need to give. So it will always say, choose 3 or choose 4, or choose 2. So you will know, well, how many you have to choose.
Yeah, that makes it easier, right? If you didn't, you'd just be like, "Oh my God, is it more than 3? Is it less than 2? I don't know."
I was considering to add just choose all, because instead of choose all that apply.
Okay, so course, I didn't choose it.
Me neither. No.
Because technically, to host a secure public website and API gateway, you don't need course. You need course if the public website needs to communicate with API gateway, but that wasn't in the question.
Okay, yeah. This question can be found in the example questions, so of the professional exam. And indeed, I had to shorten it again that it fits in the schedule. But course is indeed in that question, in the example, one of the important steps. all the others just are easy.
And I think this really indicates what makes the professional certificates difficult is the fact that you need to know about so many services, because you need to know what CORS is. You need to know about ACM. You need to know about API Gateway to be able to answer this question. So you really have to have a broad base of knowledge to sit those exams.
I'm not sure if you guys understand the comment. Wouldn't the answer be WAF? And is this then the well-architected framework or the web application firewall?
I guess web application firewall.
So you don't need a web application firewall to have a secure website, but you can use the web application firewall to make it more secure, to have specific controls, for example, blocking specific countries or blocking specific requests. But if you just have a public website that you want to have available for everyone on HTTPS, then WAF, I guess, would not be a requirement. Anything you, Marta, David, anything?
I mean,
it's a hard one. Yeah.
In the meantime, I will start the next question.
I was thinking it couldn't be a terrible sixth one there, but you are definitely, like you said, it makes you think about the services, because I think to even have WAF set up, you'd kind of need to use like your cloud front anyway, right? So you'd have to have that as a prerequisite and then be like, okay, cool. So, I mean, I might actually chuck it in there for something to add a little bit more security, but I think in the context of that question with S3, it's talking about a static website. And with API Gateway, you normally have to check some like little tick box that says cross-origin resource sharing. So that makes it API Gateway S3, and then you can, and CloudFront obviously host it and stuff. So you can kind of like build it up from there. Like, okay, cool. These are like the services. If there was a number like Luke said earlier, that would make it way easier to determine. But you could use a WAF, right? You could use a firewall if you want to do.
Yeah, actually on CloudFront API Gateway.
Yeah.
Both. Yeah.
So that's actually a fun question. I haven't seen it on the exams, but which services can you use web application firewall on?
That one is in exams. I've had that actually.
Yeah.
I've had it. I think it was in the last networking specialities that I was doing. It was way more, and I think you did yours a while ago, because I did a lot of my studying for network speciality came from some of the stuff you did, like setting up the ENRs to speak to each other across VPCs and doing that. It really gave me a way better understanding, like from a lab, of how to do it. So, but yeah, that the last networking specialty, it was the only test I actually failed, and that was like a while ago. Like, I don't want to remember, but I then spent a bit of time to gain more context and stuff like that. And when I rewrote it the second time, the test had changed more from like being heavy on this very specific AWS networking style to a lot more general networking of even other services like AppStream, Workspaces. And then it actually asked that question, like your ALB, CloudFront, and API Gateway, like, because it would actually, and it tested it a few times in different ways. So it's important, yeah.
So what was the answer then?
I think it's ALB, CloudFront, and API Gateway, right?
And AppSync. AppSync
and
is
AppSync.
the fourth one. Yeah.
That's added later, or once they launched AppSync.
I'm not sure, but well, it's currently available.
That's interesting. Yeah, I did not know that.
What about Global Accelerator?
You can't do WAF on it, but you can do Global Accelerator on your application load balancer. I think you can put a WAF in between.
Yeah, so yeah.
Otherwise, use a Lambda.
Yeah, use a Lambda for anything. Don't worry about the cost, though.
So this was an easy for most of us. So at least the 7. Cool.
With one remark is that you should probably call it EventBridge these days.
Yeah.
It's
Good point.
CloudWatch Events is the old name.
Yeah.
I guess you can still find it in 2 places in the console, right? So.
Yeah, and what I've seen that on an exam as well, that they used old service names, so that can happen. It even happened. I was doing an exam and I get a question about the performance of S3. So it used to be using a prefix in your S3 objects, and they removed that requirement, but it still appeared on some exams in a few days after they launched that new feature.
Yeah.
So
I think
it's actually more
with the consistency feature, because that was obviously in the data and analytics exam about the consistent view feature of EMR. That's not needed anymore now. So.
Okay.
It's actually it's more than a few days. I think it can be like half a year between the exams being updated and you're still getting questions about the old services or old limits or old features. And it also works the other way around. A service has to be generally available in most of the regions for at least 6 months before a question on it will appear on your exam. So if they they launched the bug hunt yesterday or last week somewhere, you will not get a question on it in the next 6 months for sure.
Cool.
So no fault.
Yeah, and actually, if you think about that, with for example, like the whole changes in renaming like a master branch to root branch, those kind of changes that also need to reflect back to all the questions and exams, right? Eventually, so it's a whole bunch of work, I guess, for the training team. Like changing everywhere where they had a master billing account to management account, those kind of changes that are happening now.
I can't imagine how difficult it is to keep these exams up to date, since they're releasing so many features and so many services. It's like thousands a year. How do you even keep track of that?
I guess that's why they have the SME program, right? Because I think you can't hire people that do that all day.
But there's just still doubt how many servers there actually are. So every Amazonian says another number. But of those, let's say 200 services that are out there, how many of them would appear at the exams?
Well, across all of the exams, I think about half of the services are covered. About 100.
Yeah, I think so too.
So if you focus on the core, like I sometimes say the core 70 services plus some the specialty ones for specific certifications, then that's about 30 to 50%.
Yeah.
So is there like an exam that you would like to see additionally, Luke or David? Like which topics?
I have a very strong preference to have a serverless exam and certification. And that actually is because of my new employer, who is completely all in on serverless. And they say it doesn't make sense for us to train our people on the associates because they're all learning about VPCs and EC2 and we're not using it. Yeah. So why would we do the exams and why would we do the certifications? And a serverless certification would definitely fill that gap.
I had to train, that was a couple of months ago, a team that was full into serverless, but they also wanted to get some certifications. So they said, can you please train us a little bit on all the rest so that you can pass the exams and check the boxes, but we are still using only serverless and glue and all the exciting stuff and don't want to do anything with EC2 except passing the exams. But serverless, yeah, indeed. And David?
Man, I think that serverless one, that was really good. But for me, I think the weirdest thing is that there's a big difference between like building stuff the right way and then like the certifications. So like if you look at the competencies from AWS, like migration or DevOps competencies and stuff like that, they actually very specific in the way they want you to build stuff. and then you get to the certification and it's kind of like, okay, cool, build anything you want type deals. So I don't know, it would be nice if there was some easier way to kind of, I imagine like a lab type thing, almost like those Cisco exams or something like that would be pretty fun, where you could like actually demonstrate like something well architected maybe, or highly available, right? Like an EC2 is spanning multiple regions. For me, if it's, I've been burnt actually before in some systems that I've built where it was like, let's go full on serverless, let's go like full on like the top tech, and then we miss out on spot instances and we miss out on some of these other simpler things, and then you get like into this corner sometimes and you're like, oh, but how do I do I actually just need a big instance for like some like parallelized compute, and now you're like, oh my god, how am I going to do this in serverless land? So for me, I think using all of the tools but is pretty good, and I would like to see maybe the certifications, maybe like maybe more of a drive on around the competencies and stuff like that, because they have serverless competency and that actually tells you how to build stuff. So something like that.
I've also heard rumors a couple of years ago, and that was before the specialties were launched, about a master exam, which was like this, right? So after professional, that you have like a master exam where you have indeed to do live consultancy in front of a audience, these kind of things. But
yeah, just like with what you have with VMware with the VCDX.
Okay.
Yeah. At least there you had to come up with some kind of design, present it, and defend your design choices, etc. But I heard that as well, but I think it never got there.
We've got a question. What would be the AWS serverless stack to cover in the exam? Is that CDK, SAM, Amplify, serverless framework?
I guess so many things, right? Even Dynamo. There's so many things you can add in there, right?
Yeah, but I think you should focus on the actual services and not the tooling around it. Although Amplify and SAM, probably some CDK should be in there, but I think the core should be definitely Lambda, S3, CloudFront, EventBridge, step functions, SNS, SQS, maybe some CloudWatch, maybe some IAM. Everything that you need to build to or use to build a completely serverless website and web service.
Yeah, it's almost like AppSync API gateway.
It's almost like the developer associate though, but more at a serverless kind of level. Like when you said it there, like that's what I was thinking about.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is a fun outcome. We all say 2, and the actual answer, according to the documentation, should be 4.
So that depends on how you define connection, right? Because if you look at AWS VPN, you can have one tunnel, and one tunnel has 2 connections. No, it's the other way around.
One connection has 2 tunnels, yeah.
2 tunnels. So actually, I think the answer should still be 2 because you're asking for connections. And those 2 connections.
If it's tunnels, it should be 4. Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, probably.
And I would say infinite, because like if you're not pinging the VPN connection, it's just gonna keep going down, so you're stuck.
It's a big pitfall. That's true.
Yeah, let's go ahead then quickly to the last 3
that
years.
Has changed. That has changed recently, right? You don't have to have the. It can stay online anyhow without some kind of keep alive that you had to do before.
Yeah.
I think
you can also initiate now from AWS.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Cool. As you can see, we have hit the S in the numbering, S1. So this is one of the specialty exams. You have 2 web servers that share a security group, SGWeb and SGSSH, in a VPC with CyberBlock 10.0.0.0/16. Add source ... to allow access to the other web server.
So I guess you cut a bit from this this question as well.
I had to do, yeah.
It's a little confusing.
Otherwise, we can only cover like 4 questions in 1 hour. So I had to squeeze it into a short one. And just have nice discussions on it. And I think we're doing good. Also, looking at the time, we have 10 minutes left.
I saw this one also quite a few times, this questions. Yeah, this one I remember.
Yeah, but in the real question on the next exam, there will be more details, like what ports are included and what type of resources, etc. But
that wasn't so bad. For some reason, I liked those ones. The knuckle one always would get me.
So explain this one, Martijn.
Yeah, so the official one, the question I read and translated, was you have 2 web servers and they have to talk to each other. Even if they are in the same security group, they cannot communicate to each other because they're actually not in the same. If they are in the same group, but the group is around every resource, so you have to open the security group for itself.
Yeah, so self-referencing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's
okay. So that made the question a bit confusing, I guess.
But now nobody forgets about it, that you have to specify your own web server. It in particular happens with the NLB, I suppose, and microservices. So if you run like a ECS cluster.
But I guess people took it to mean like there's 2 instances. One has SG Web and SG SSH. So to get into the SG Web, you'd have to allow the SG SSH. That's how I read it as well. But I get what you're saying as well, because I've made that mistake a million times where I forget to put a security group, and then I get the default VPC one. And then I'm like,
I also always blame the person that created the questions, not answering the questions. So blame me. That's okay.
Actually, there's a comment here, and this is correct. Jeroen is saying, I think using the CIDR would work too, and I agree.
Yeah.
That's maybe also a good one for. We're now in the specialty questions. You will often see questions where 2 answers are correct, but they want you to provide the best answer. And in this case, yes, you could open up the entire CIDR block, but it would be less secure because then everybody can access those web servers, and that's not what you're trying to achieve. So SD Web in this case would be the better answer.
Cool.
Yeah, but then there would be some kind of notion about in the most secure way or in the most something like that, because actually what you're saying is right. It works for both the options. Yeah.
Oh, I know this one.
S2, what's that service? I don't know that one.
I mean, the cool thing with KMS now, I've been talking about it a lot, but you can use quantum algorithms with it, so you can protect your data forever. Theoretically, anyway, right?
So why not a quantum exam yet?
Yeah.
That will be cool when that comes. Quantum computing, quantum machine learning. I mean, that when that comes out, man, it's gonna be big.
The problem is you'll both pass and fail the exam at the same time.
Actually, it would only be a probability of failure or success. But
so regarding this question, the VPC endpoints is one of the answers that are in there, and VPC endpoints, I did some deep dives on it, and the network load balancer and the underlying system hyperplane. It is so intensely impressive. If you try to understand what they built there and the quality and the technological marvel that they achieve with network load balancers and VPC endpoints, it is insane. It is. I was totally blown away.
If you have do you have a nice source of this, or maybe wrote something? Just maybe you can share it in the chat.
I'll
I think
check.
there was a reInvent talk as well, I think last year or the year before, about the hyperplane especially. Definitely.
Also with KMS, you generally see key policy stuff. It's but it's not related to VPCs, but it's also quite important for securing it.
So this is the last question, and if there are other questions by the audience, this is the final 5 minutes time to ask these brilliant guys. Interesting. You can start blaming me, Luke. No worries.
Just before we even get to that.
Before we reveal the answers. Yeah.
So actually, regarding the previous question, the hyperplane one, I shared a link with you, Martijn. I can't add it to the comments, so maybe you can.
It's the YouTube one, right?
Yeah.
I will add it in the chat as well.
So the title of that video is actually Another Day, Another Billion Packets. And they tell how at AWS they design systems to scale, networking systems to scale pretty much infinitely. It's really impressive.
So the answers are there. And have you burned the whole IAM flow into your mind before taking an exam? And is it correct? That's the first one.
I could draw it on a whiteboard.
Yeah. So that's probably
actually,
one of the important things.
Yeah, IAM as well. It's essential to understand it. And also, I'm starting to sound like an AWS fanboy, but I guess I am. I am, haha.
We are, I guess.
But IAM as well. There's a genius concept behind it that somebody came up with how IAM should work, and it's super complex. And when you start studying it, you think, okay, how am I ever supposed to understand this? But it works always and everywhere, and it scales to every new service. And there was this tweet storm, I think a few weeks back, where they said they have like 400 billion requests per minute on the IAM API because everything goes through it, and it's just amazing what they built there. It's really powerful. But what
you sound like a fanboy, indeed.
Yeah, I love that, man. I'm sold. Where do I buy me some IAM? But
anyway, what you should remember now is explicitly nice, right?
The only thing I like sometimes get like with IAM was always confusing to me was like that, that whole permission boundary thing. Like the SCP stuff isn't so bad, but when you get into it and you're really writing like those explicit denies, right? Yeah, that stuff can get a little bit tricky, and you need to like scope it out. But I know IAM now has that policy validator, so you can actually like check your policies, and like it shows you if they're insecure, like a whole bunch of cool stuff, and like where you're making mistakes. So it made it a little bit easier, and you don't have to be like a monster policy ninja. But the one weird thing that I've seen with IAM is that it's like eventually consistent, right? Like you sit there, you change it, and then you like go back to your EC2. You're like, hey, but it doesn't have the permission. And then you're like, oh, I'm doing something else wrong. But like, actually, if you just waited like a minute or two, it would work. I've had that one before. So yeah.
With my Lambdas, I always redeploy my Lambdas, just make a minor code change, redeploy it to update the policy, because I don't have the patience to wait, right?
Top tip as well.
All right. Just posted the last link.
I just wanted, so a fellow AWS ambassador also has this tool like from Ian McKay, right? I am live, you know that one? So it basically helps you with defining your policies. You can just run your commands against the API, and then it will generate the IAM policy for it. So it's actually a cool tool to check out. I'll share the link here.
I suspect eventually, like, that's the weirdest thing with the certs, right, that it showed me is like, it started out with these small building blocks, and now as time has gone on, you are seeing a bit more of an abstraction on top of it, right? Like, you don't have to know how to do S3 to API gateway to CloudFront. You can get the CDK construct for it and be like, bam, done. So it's like those abstractions are coming, and I even suspect that they'll come for like IAM, with Access Analyzer and these other pieces, just to make your life simpler, so you won't have to do that heavy lifting anymore.
Yeah, but for the exams, you will probably, they will still require you to understand the underlying systems. And that's actually also why I think that there's not a serverless exam or certification, because they want you to understand the underlying systems as well. And in the end, everything is built on EC2, right? So it's a good foundation to have.
But the specialty might specialty serverless exam. But,
yeah, that's true.
I mean, I definitely go very fast towards it. Like if they had it, I'd be like, "Where is it? Give it to me."
But should it be associate or specialty? That's actually an interesting question.
I would go with specialty. I would like it to be really tough, and like really, the developer associate gives you a lot of those basic building blocks, but it would be nice to see if you could use them in maybe more complicated ways in a specialty, personally.
All right. Let's wrap it up. Maybe some final words from you guys. David, what do you want to say to the audience?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's done a lot for me. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I love helping people in the community with like getting certs and stuff. So give me a shout, and I'm also like here learning more. So maybe I'll learn something from you.
Thanks.
Luke?
Yeah, well, thanks for organizing this, Martijn. It's been a blast. Had a lot of fun. I hope the audience had some we had some positive impact on the audience and helped them with their exams. And same as for David. If you have any questions, just find me on Twitter or wherever and reach out.
Cool, thanks. Maarten?
Yeah, I think all has been said already. Same applies to me. It's always fun to join these sessions, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And also, like in the survey that you shared, or will share, if you would like more of these sessions, then definitely indicate that. Maybe we can do some, I don't know, workshops, study groups, or whatever. If there's a demand for it in the community, then happy to support that.
Maybe we can create our own serverless certification for the community.
Yeah,
that could be.
That would be great and maybe add some prizes to it. Well, good ideas, good thoughts for during the summer. I think during the summer we will be a little bit less active than usually during the year. But right after summer in September, we will organize the AWS Community Day again here in the Netherlands. We're still exploring if it's going to be hybrid, in person, online only. We have to wait a few more days to make a good decision about that. So stay tuned. We will announce it, of course, on all the channels. And otherwise, I wish everybody a very nice summer. So
enjoy the summer, guys. Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks, Martijn.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers,
Bye.
guys.